And now we're ready to launch AutoBounce. When you launch AutoBounce, you'll be greeted by this window, which will give you links to the Quick Start Guide, the Knowledge Base, and the AutoBounce forum. All right, once you go through there, you're going to have the opportunity now to scan your Logic project. If you're not ready to do so, you can quit. But let's go ahead and hit scan. And it's very important that when this window is open, you do not touch anything on your computer until that window disappears. You're going to see a spinning ball, and you're going to notice that Logic is doing all kinds of strange things, collapsing, expanding, scrolling, opening your mixer, all kinds of cool stuff. Once AutoBounce is done, you'll be greeted by the main window. You'll immediately notice that AutoBounce's track list is going to match the view that you had selected in Logic when you did the scan. So right now I have these, this folder stack is expanded and these are all collapsed, and it's the same here. What's really cool is that this is independent. It doesn't affect Logic in real time. This just allows you to more easily view and select what you want. In stem mode, which this is, nothing is selected to run as stems. So if you wanted to run stems, the first thing you do is name your job, which becomes the name of the folder that the stems will bounce into. So you can call it, I'll just call it Combat Stems, right? Now nothing is selected. If I wanted to run stems for this, and I would quickly identify which ones I want to run, and I know that I have this percussion inside. It's divided into percussion loops, and low percussion. Then I want my strings, my brass, my guitars, and my bass. The ARPs inside that, I have ARPs and pulses, and I have my choir and effects. I'm ready to hit bounce. But AutoBounce can do so much more than that. Let's take a look at mix mode. So in mix mode, instead of going one at a time, it will bounce everything together. Makes sense, right? It's a mix. So in mix mode, you'll see the icon changes here. You would just call this, let's say, Combat Mix, right? And then everything is selected. Everything that's selected is included in the bounce. Now, for example, if I wanted to quickly run an alternate mix without a choir, what's really cool is I could just copy this. I can call it, Combat No Choir. That's the name of the mix, and I can just uncheck the choir. So now I'm going to run a mix with the choir and a mix without the choir. That's basically how it works between stem mode and mix mode. Mix mode combines them all. Stem mode does one at a time. Now, so far, you've only been seeing me deal with track stacks. But AutoBounce is completely comfortable bouncing individual tracks as well. So, for example, if I were to expand all of these collapsed folders, which are basically track stacks, you can see the individual tracks inside them, and you can easily tell the difference because you do not see a folder icon. So inside percussion loops, these are all the individual tracks. You can see tracks 5 through 19. Now, what does this mean? When I'm looking at this in stem mode and all of these things are checked and visible, what that means is that every checkbox represents an individual bounce. Okay, so what we like to say in AutoBounce land is if you see it checked, it's going to bounce. If you don't see it checked, it's not. All right, so that means these are not going to bounce, but these will. Now, what happens if I collapse this? You see that this is checked. Is it going to remember that I turned those other things off? No, it will not. Because then you might forget what you had checked and what you didn't have checked. We tried to make it as intuitive as possible. So what this means is the percussion loops track stack is going to bounce. What this means is that these tracks are going to bounce inside of the percussive loop track stack, right? Folder stack, right? So if you see it checked, it's bouncing. Doesn't matter if it's stem mode or mix mode. The only difference between stem and mix mode is that every checkbox represents a separate bounce, whereas in mix mode, everything you see checked is combined into a single mix.